Hey, you guys, Cindy here. Happy Tuesday. I am so excited to be here live with you guys and talking about a subject that I can so resonate with, and it's really close to my heart. And I work with women around this all the time. Hi, Helene. So good to see you here. Hi, Kate. Gosh, I love it. You guys are just jumping right on today. This must be a good subject. It's hot. Hey, Lori. Um, yeah, and so I love it that a bunch of you guys are jumping on live. So we're going to talk about, I want to dive into the subject today about, hurt and, the fear that comes up around really creating a new relationship. And what I would love for you guys to do is take a moment and really think today and think about adding into the comment box, what is the number one thing I feel challenged around when it comes to my love life? The number one thing. Just post below, and know that your posts will be helping someone else. It'll be helping someone else to get support too, because I answer all of them personally. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get to them, but I really, really like to engage with you guys and support you and really help you overcome anything that's coming up. Awesome. I just saw Maria's post, trust intimacy. So intimacy is a big one, and that's part of, what happens around this fear thing that comes up. So, as past issues. Yeah. So, you'll have to forgive me, you guys. I think I've got some allergies here. I don't know if it's the weather or the fires. But anyway, I refuse to say that I have a cold, so I'm good. But I want to talk about, love and fear. So what has happened in the past? So maybe you've been hurt in the past, right? And something that I can tell you when it comes to creating new relationships, to opening yourself up to creating a deep connection and having what you want, it does stem back to fear, right? So let me explain a little bit more about fear. Fear is really what's unknown, what's out there, what's going to happen, what if, all the what ifs in your mind. What if it doesn't work out? And, I'm going to dive a little bit more into that fear in a moment. And maybe you've heard this before, but people that have an easier time bouncing back after a breakup, after something disappointing happens, they have this sense of resilience, and they can look at, and I'm going to give you guys some acronyms that you can utilize into your life. I learned this, I'm not sure the source, but I can tell you guys later. But I liked it. So when we look at resilience, we look at, okay, so first acknowledge what happened. So acknowledge the relationship. Okay? Adapt to what is today. So maybe you had this person in your life, and was it what you really wanted? Yes or no? I'm going to say chances are not. And so then you get to adapt to life as being different. Okay? You get to adjust yourself into how you're going to show up today. So you get to adapt, adjust, accommodate yourself and accept what is. So accommodate your wants, needs, and desires. Adjust and look at the lesson, what worked, what didn't work. And this is something that, in any situation that I'm not feeling amazing about, or I feel like there's a bit of a breakdown, I look at what is my part here? And what can, how can I adjust myself to really being the highest and best good in this situation? What if the situation didn't work out the way that I thought? What if I got blindsided? Okay, that's something to look at. There's a lesson there. Maybe I get to be more present in my relationships. So, a lot of times what I see with women especially is, and I've talked about this before, we go into the blame game of, well, what's wrong with me? Was I not good enough? Did I not look pretty enough? Was I not this, and that? And I'm going to go back to that because that really filters back into fear, you guys. And what can happen is it's this self thought process that it can wash down. It's like a toilet bowl drain, right? And what really happens there is there's a thought process in your head of, my life isn't going to be really happy. If I don't have this, my life isn't going to be great. So I'm focusing on what happens and why our fears build up. So if you're aware of this and you can eventually get out of that, sometimes there's, I recommend getting support of a coach, a therapist. Somebody that really knows what time it is when it comes to this, to support you in really, shifting your mindset so that you can kind of open yourself up to lasting love, right? So there's those pieces that can create the challenge. Now, there's the positive side of it. So if you can get past the pathological guilt that comes in place, which is, that it's not guilt. It's not only guilt, it's sadness. It's, that self beat up. It's all of that. And if that's not shifted fairly quickly by, getting physical exercise, talking to a few trusted friends, working with a coach, really doing your personal development around this, it can really get into some unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy patterns. And that is, it's a breeding ground for settling and codependency and desperation, quite frankly. And this can also manifest pessimism. How many people have you heard say, well, all the good guys are taken. No man really wants to commit. It's bullshit, you guys. It's complete bullshit. So, we're only looking for one that's right for you out there. So if you write this down, faith, love, in life, faith and love in life, what that creates is looking at life from a capacity of, there are obstacles in my life and there's always solutions. There's the light and there's ways to create what I desire. Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, Cindy, I've done a lot of personal development work. I do this. Well, there's more that gets to be done. There's more that gets to be you know, done and diving down into this work. So the fear. So something that I see happen a lot is, you know, and I see this with my clients too, because we really do talk about patterns, and our patterning is created from, gosh, from being a child, from being, you know, just a little child. And, you know, if you can imagine, and I've talked about this recently, how free you felt at times, and maybe you didn't. So that's something else. And looking at when it comes to fear and fear in development of relationship, here's what happens. Here's what I see as the patterning that can occur. So when we're aware of this, we can choose to shift it and make different choice. I'm curious, how many of you guys think that you talk to yourself really nicely most of the time? Just curious. And if you feel like you do, just put a 2 in the comment box, okay? And if you feel like you have fear, I want you to listen to this too. So, and we all have fear, by the way. It's natural to have fear. But what happens when we're in a dating space of developing something, and, you know, I have clients that this shifts for on the 2nd date, the 3rd date, the 10th date, you know, in 3 months, or at different times it shifts. Well, what starts to creep in is that, you know, there's a comfort level around what feels familiar. So our life feels familiar, maybe the things you normally do have felt familiar, so that shifts a bit, but you're still doing things that feel great and familiar. But yet there's still this voice that might be underneath that says, who's going to really accept me if they really know me? And all of a sudden, there's someone in your life that's adoring you and saying really nice things to you and wanting to do nice things for you. And what happens? What can happen is it brings up that safety mechanism of panic almost. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. The last one didn't go down so well. You know, I think he wants what I want. And then there's this whole self-doubt and fear that happens, and it starts to stand in our way. And you know, what goes on beyond that is, you know, not only does it stir up the past. Sorry, I'm looking at a couple things I wanted to make sure that I covered. But, you know, those critical thoughts in us can be projected out. So we don't have the capacity to receive as much. So then shutting down starts to happen. All of a sudden, maybe you show up as somebody different than you did right in the beginning, the first few dates. You were happy, go lucky, free. All of a sudden, there's an attachment to what the outcome's going to be. And that fear freezes. So, and there's a fear of vulnerability, right? You guys, there's this fear around what, you know, the more that I care, the more I'm going to get hurt. The more that I care, the more I'm going to get hurt. But what if the fear is you know, that's not true vulnerability. I mean, it feels vulnerable, but if you're not sharing about yourself and how you work and even your fears, gosh, I really I'm loving getting to know you, and I do have a little fear of getting close. It's it hasn't always worked out, and that's the chance, obviously, right? Or fears about anything in life, because that creates a deeper connection. So something else comes up with women, and I see this a lot too, is they'll tell me, I was talking to a client of mine last night about this, and I I was talking to her about being open, because it can be scary for her to be open and even ask for help. So we were talking about that and what that looked like and what comes up for her. And she said, well, the thing that could come up is, I smile at him, and what if I'm not interested? And, all of these things that come wrapped up in our mind. And what happens is we block ourselves from opening up to people that could be really great people for us by having that exact thought. And so many women will, I want to say this in the right way, will have fear that if someone's interested in them and their interest is not at the same level, which this is common, you guys, love can be a little lopsided, right? So their interest isn't at the same level. There's a fear that if I continue to get to know him, that I could hurt him, and that, that's just not fair, which in reality, we're dating to get to know people and open ourselves up. So if we stay in that place, which is another way to self-protect, what happens is you give up the opportunity to really connect with people without an agenda, with really, who knows, this could be the love of my life. Maybe I'm not feeling a whole lot of chemistry or what I think I need to feel, but what if I stay open? And if we stop blocking ourselves from that piece, what happens is it's like you're not responsible for anybody else's feelings. I love that about us women. We tend to be really caring and nurturing by nature, and we want to take care of people's feelings. But if we're blocking something that could even be a friend that could lead you to something else, and you know who you are if you do this, it can actually, it's an energetic thing that will actually push people away. And a lot of people do this in our world today. Why? Because we're busy. We get stuck in our cell phones. We do all of the things that, society says, we need to be techie. But the thing is that connecting for real with somebody that's interested in getting to know you, what a gift that is. So opening yourself up to what's truly possible, that's where it's like the real milk and honey is. And, looking at life, like I said, faith, love, and joy. Yes, there are obstacles, but there are possibilities. And, maybe you meet a guy and he seems really interested in you, and then you look at him and you think, I don't think he'd be what I want. why don't you talk to him and open yourself up to just getting to know a human being? And regardless of what happens during that conversation, go into it with, gosh, what could I learn from this person? How can I be really open with them? How can I practice with them? And a lot of times we'll allow our past to preclude us from our future. I'll talk to women that'll say, men just don't like me. The men that I like online don't like me. I'm not meeting anyone. Well, there's a couple of things going on. One, it's probably your profile. Two, there's something may or may not be going on with your pictures. But three, there's an energy and an attitude and a belief system that goes deep down. So, and there's a fear, those fears like, fear of intimacy, true intimacy. And that's not jumping into bed together. It's really getting down and getting to know one another and opening up. Men desire authenticity from a woman. I have this client of mine and she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. And, we were talking about some of our dating patterns and I said, okay, so like we were breaking it down and sorry about that, guys. And I was literally, she said, about the third date, sometimes the second date, sometimes the fourth date, things change. I said, so do things change because you changed? And she says, yes. I shut down on the date. I start getting really worried as to whether or not they like me. And you guys, you get to decide if you like them too. And if they're going to measure up to the right type of man that you want. Now, this might sound contradictory. I'm saying be open because that means getting past your fears, but you also get to have discernment. You get to have, this thought in your head of, do we have similar visions in life? Okay, cool. How do I figure out if he's the kind of guy that is trustworthy? Well, you give that a little space and you can actually see it on the first 3 dates. You can, if you're not too caught up in the chemistry with the guy, if you're caught up in, their dopamine, you know what I mean? Everything that flows, oxytocin, and all of that can flow just being on a date. So if you can say consciously, I'm going to take my brain with me. How is this guy showing up? Is he doing what he says he's going to do? And what does that look like? Now, sometimes we can look at things from an extreme point of view. I have a real fun, loving promoter personality. And if somebody shows up 5-10 minutes late, I'm not usually that concerned. Now, if it's much more than that, then I am, right? But I look at, okay, so how are they mostly showing up with me? If they canceled, what happened? Like, I look at those things. And my come from might be different than somebody that's really analytical that says, well, he was supposed to be there at 12:30, showed up at 12:35, he didn't text me, blah, 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 right? So it's almost like looking at yourself, what has really stood in the way of you and getting close to someone? Have you got mad at someone before they got there? And, let's look at shifting that and turning that around. All right, you guys, I could talk so much longer. I know this was a long one today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Trust, intimacy, I love that. Past issues. I really want to hear about where you're at, what your biggest challenge might be today, and dig deep if you have to. I'm sending you so much love. I'll see you again tomorrow. Mwah.